I'd always thought I knew Marissa better than anyone, but that day at Café del Sol changed everything. It was a sunny afternoon, the kind where the light spills through the windows and makes everything look warm and safe. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I'd finished my errands early, picking up some groceries, dropping off a design draft for a client, and decided to surprise her with her favorite lemon cake from the bakery down the street. She'd been working late a lot, saying it was for some big project at her marketing firm, and I figured a small gesture might brighten her day. I was wrong. As I walked up to the cafe, my hands full with that little white box tied with string, I saw her through the glass. Marissa, my wife of 12 years, was sitting at a corner table, her dark hair catching the light. And she wasn't alone. There was a man in a navy suit, leaning close, too close. Then it happened, she kissed him. Not a quick peck, but a real kiss, the kind that says more than words ever could. My stomach dropped. I stood there, frozen, the cake box trembling in my hands, watching as her lips pressed against his, her hand resting on his arm like it belonged there. People walked past me on the sidewalk, chatting and laughing, but all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. I don't know how long I stared before I finally moved. I pushed through the door, the bell jingling above me, and walked straight to their table. She pulled away from him when she saw me, but there was no shock in her eyes, no guilt. She just wiped her lipstick with a napkin and smirked, like I'd caught her sneaking a cookie, not breaking our marriage. "Shouldn't you be home with the kids, Callum?" she said, her voice sharp and casual, like she was scolding me for interrupting her. The man shifted in his seat, looking uncomfortable, but he didn't say a word. I felt the heat rise in my chest, a mix of anger and something else, humiliation, maybe. 12 years, 2 kids, a life I'd built around her, and she could dismiss me like that? I didn't yell. I didn't have the words yet. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the little notebook I always carried for sketching ideas. My hands were shaking, but I managed to rip out a page and grab the pen from my shirt. I wrote 6 words, slow and deliberate. Don't come home. We're done. The ink smeared a little as I pressed harder than I needed to, but it was clear enough. I set it down next to her untouched coffee, the paper crinkling against the saucer. Her smirk faded for a second, but she didn't say anything. The man in the suit cleared his throat, looking between us, but I didn't care about him. I turned and walked out, the bell jingling again as the door swung shut behind me. The cake box was still in my hand. I'd forgotten to drop it off, and I tossed it into the trash can outside without looking back. My truck was parked a block away, and I kept my head down as I walked, trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. I'd spent years thinking I knew her, thinking we were a team. I'd left my job as a civil engineer to stay home with Jasper and Talia, freelancing as a designer so she could chase her career. I'd cooked dinners, folded laundry, built a life for us, and she'd been kissing someone else in broad daylight. The note wasn't just a message, it was a line in the sand. I didn't know what came next, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her twist this into something I'd forgive. Not this time. I climbed into my truck, started the engine, and drove off, the cafe shrinking in my rearview mirror. My hands gripped the wheel tight, and I told myself I'd figure it out, whatever it was. For me. For the kids. But not for her. Not anymore. I didn't know where I was going when I left Café del Sol, but I couldn't face home yet. Not after seeing Marissa with that man, her lips on his, her smirk cutting me deeper than any knife could. The truck rumbled beneath me as I drove through town, past the grocery store where I'd just been, past the park where I'd taken Jasper and Talia last weekend. My mind was a mess, replaying that moment over and over, her kissing him, her voice dripping with mockery when she saw me standing there. "Shouldn't you be home with the kids, Callum?" she'd said, like I was some hired help who'd wandered out of place. I'd spent 12 years building a life with her, and in 6 words, don't come home. We're done. I tried to end it, but it didn't feel finished. Not yet. The kids were with my sister Bree for the afternoon. Thank God. She'd offered to watch them so I could run errands, and now that small favor felt like a lifeline. I couldn't let Jasper and Talia see me like this, shaky, angry, lost. I drove for an hour, maybe more, circling the same streets until the gas gauge dipped low and forced me to pull over at a station. I sat there in the parking lot, staring at the dashboard, trying to figure out what to do next. My phone buzzed in my pocket, Marissa's name on the screen. I didn't answer. She didn't deserve my voice, not after that. Eventually, I had to go back. The kids would need me soon, and I couldn't hide forever. When I pulled into our driveway, my stomach sank. Her car was there, parked crooked like she'd rushed in. She hadn't listened to the note. Of course she hadn't. I sat in the truck for a minute, gripping the steering wheel, telling myself to stay calm. Then I got out and walked inside. The house smelled like her perfume, floral and sharp, and it hit me like a punch. She was in the living room, sprawled on the couch with a glass of red wine in her hand, the bottle open on the coffee table. She looked up at me, her eyes lazy, like she'd been waiting for me to come crawling back. "We need to talk," she said, swirling the wine like this was some casual chat about dinner plans. I stood in the doorway, my hands clenched at my sides, and just stared at her. She didn't even look sorry. "Talk?" I said, my voice low, rougher than I meant it to be. "You were kissing some guy in a cafe, Marissa. What's there to talk about?" She sighed, like I was overreacting, and set the glass down. "It wasn't what you think, Callum. It was just an emotional connection. You wouldn't understand." "An emotional connection?" I almost laughed, but it caught in my throat. "I saw you," I said. "I saw your mouth on his. Don't tell me what I wouldn't understand." She leaned back, crossing her arms, and gave me that look, like I was a kid throwing a tantrum. "You've been so busy playing house, Callum. I've been out there, working, chasing real goals. You made me feel invisible." Her words hit hard, not because they were true, but because they twisted everything I'd done for us into something small. I'd given up my engineering career to raise our kids, to support her while she climbed the ladder at her firm. I'd freelanced from home, juggling deadlines and diaper changes so she could shine. And now she was blaming me? "You're invisible?" I said, stepping closer. "I've been here, Marissa. Every day. For you. For Jasper. For Talia. You're the one who checked out." She shrugged, like it didn't matter, and took another sip of wine. "It's not that simple. Grayson, he gets me. He sees what I'm trying to do with my life." Grayson. So that was his name. The man in the Navy suit had a name, and she said it like it was nothing, like it wouldn't tear me apart. I felt the heat rise in my chest again, but I kept my voice steady. "Pack your things," I said. "I want you out by morning." Her eyes widened, just for a second, before she laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Where would I go? This is my house too. Maybe your new boyfriend has a guest room." I shot back, turning away before she could see how much it hurt to say it. I walked to the kitchen, needing space, needing air. She didn't follow me. I heard the TV click on, some reality show she liked, and it was like she'd already moved on from the conversation. I leaned against the counter, staring at the sink full of dishes I'd meant to wash earlier. This wasn't my home anymore, not with her here, acting like I was the one who'd broken us. I thought about the kids, about how I'd explain this to them. Jasper was old enough to ask questions, and Talia, she just want her mom. But Marissa didn't care about that. She never had, not really. I'd been blind to it for too long, thinking her late nights and sharp comments were just stress. Now I saw it clear as day. She'd stopped being my wife a long time ago. I pulled out my phone and texted Bree, asking her to keep the kids overnight. She replied fast, of course. "You okay?" I didn't answer that. I couldn't yet. Instead, I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat at the kitchen table, listening to the hum of the TV from the other room. Marissa could stay tonight, but tomorrow, she was gone. I'd make sure of it. I'd given her everything, my time, my trust, my life, and she'd thrown it back in my face. The note wasn't just words on paper anymore. It was real, and I wasn't backing down. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No clatter of Marissa's heels on the hardwood, no hum of the coffee maker she always turned on first thing. I'd slept on the couch, too raw to climb into our bed after everything, and my back ached as I sat up. The living room was empty, the wine glass still on the coffee table, a red ring staining the wood. Her car was gone from the driveway. She'd listened, at least for now, and left. I should have felt relief, like a weight lifting off my chest, but instead, there was this heavy, burning rage simmering inside me. She'd walked out without a fight, without even trying to explain herself beyond that weak, emotional connection excuse. 12 years, and she could just vanish like that. I rubbed my face, trying to shake it off, and checked my phone. Bree had texted, Jasper and Talia were fine, eating pancakes at her place. I told her to keep them one more day. I needed time to think, to figure out how to hold myself together before I faced them. The house felt too big without their little voices, too quiet without Marissa's presence, even if it had been cold lately. I made coffee, strong and black, and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the note I'd written at the cafe. It was still in my jacket pocket, crumpled now, but those 6 words, "Don't come home. We're done," felt like the only solid thing I had left. The anger kept building, though, and I couldn't sit still. I grabbed my keys and drove to the hardware store, picking up paint and brushes, something to keep my hands busy later. That's when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't know, and I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Callum Rhodes," a man's voice said, quiet but firm. "Yeah, who's this?" I asked, balancing the phone against my shoulder as I loaded cans into the truck. "Tom Mercer. I work with Marissa. I think you deserve to know some things." I stopped, the paint thudding against the tailgate. I'd met Tom once, maybe twice, a skinny guy with glasses, always hanging back at her firm's holiday parties. He didn't seem like the type to call out of the blue. "What kind of things?" I said, my voice tight. He hesitated, then said, "Can you check your email? I just sent you something." I told him I'd look when I got home and hung up, my gut twisting. The drive back was a blur. I kept imagining what he could have sent, what he knew that I didn't. When I pulled into the garage, I grabbed my laptop from the kitchen and opened his email. There were attachments, photos, a video, a zip file labeled chats. My hand shook as I clicked the first image. It was Marissa and the man from the cafe, Grayson. She'd called him, outside a hotel, his arm around her waist. Another showed them at a restaurant, her laughing as he fed her something from his plate. Then one that made my blood run cold. Them kissing near Jasper and Talia's school, the playground fence in the background. They didn't care who saw. I opened the video next, my heart pounding. It was shaky, like someone had filmed it from across a room. Marissa and Grayson at what looked like an office party. She was leaning into him, a drink in her hand, and she was laughing. "He's a glorified babysitter," she said, loud enough for the camera to catch it. "He wouldn't even know how to cheat if he tried." Grayson chuckled, and someone off-screen said, "Poor guy," before the clip cut out. I played it again, then a third time, each word sinking deeper. Glorified babysitter. That's what she thought of me. Me, who'd rebuilt my whole life to keep our family steady while she chased her dreams. I opened the chat logs last. Screenshots from her workgroup chat, names I vaguely recognized. "House hubby's probably ironing my skirts right now," she'd written once, with a laughing emoji. Another time, "Grayson says I deserve better than aprons and diaper duty." They'd all chimed in, joking about me like I was some pathetic joke. I slammed the laptop shut, my breath coming fast. The rage wasn't just hot anymore. It was cold, sharp, like a blade I could hold on to. She'd been mocking me for months, maybe longer, while I'd been home making lunches and designing blueprints in the garage. I'd trusted her, believed her late nights were about work, not this. I paced the kitchen, trying to think straight. Tom's email had a note, too. "My sister went through this. I couldn't stay quiet. Let me know if you need more." I didn't know why he'd done it, but I was grateful. This wasn't just a kiss anymore. It was a whole secret life she'd built behind my back. I sat down, staring at the paint cans I'd bought. I'd planned to cover the walls, make the house feel new again, but now I saw it differently. The framework of our marriage was broken, cracked wide open by her lies. I'd given up my career, my time, my pride to support her, and she'd turned it into a punchline. I grabbed my phone and texted Tom back. "Thanks. I'll handle it." I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her control the story anymore. She thought I was weak, some pushover she could laugh at with her lover. She was wrong. I'd been strong enough to hold our family together all these years, and now I'd be strong enough to tear her world apart if I had to. The kids would be home tomorrow, and I'd need to be their dad, steady, calm, whole. But today, I let myself feel it all. The betrayal, the anger, the clarity. Marissa had made her choice. Now it was my turn. I couldn't sleep after seeing those photos and that video from Tom. Marissa's voice echoing in my head, calling me a glorified babysitter while Grayson smirked beside her. The house was dark, the kids still at breeze, and I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, the screen glowing like some kind of ugly truth I couldn't turn off. I kept going through the files Tom sent, each one peeling back another layer of the woman I thought I'd known. 12 years of marriage, and it turned out I'd only seen the side she wanted me to see. The real Marissa, the one who mocked me in group chats and kissed Grayson by our kids' school, had been hiding in plain sight. I texted Tom back after midnight, my fingers clumsy on the keys. "Why'd you send this? What's your angle?" He replied fast, like he'd been waiting. My sister's ex cheated with someone at work. Ruined her. I saw Marissa and Grayson at the office, heard the rumors. Didn't feel right keeping it from you. I stared at his words, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and suspicion. He didn't know me anything. We barely knew each other. But here he was, handing me a loaded gun of evidence. I typed back, "How long's it been going on?" His answer came a minute later. "Months. At least since the spring conference. Maybe longer. Months." Spring was when she'd started staying late more, blaming it on a big campaign. I'd believed her, cooked extra dinners, kept the kids quiet so she could focus when she got home. I'd been a fool. I asked Tom to call me, and when he did, his voice was low, like he didn't want anyone overhearing. "It's not just the affair," he said. "They've been careless. People at the firm know. Some think it's funny. Others are pissed. Grayson's a regional manager, married too. They've been sneaking around, but not well." I gripped the phone tighter. "Married?" I said. "Yeah. His wife's a teacher. Alyssa, I think. She doesn't know, far as I can tell." That hit me hard. Another life Marissa was helping wreck, another family caught in her mess. Tom kept going. "I've got more screenshots if you want them. Office chats, mostly. They're not kind about you." I told him to send them, and when they hit my inbox, I braced myself. It was worse than I'd imagined. "House hubby's probably knitting tonight," Marissa had written in one thread, followed by a string of laughing faces from her coworkers. Grayson chimed in once. "She needs a real man, not a stay-at-home lapdog." Another coworker, some woman named Kelly, added, "He's basically her maid. Cute apron, Callum." I scrolled through it all, my jaw tight, my chest burning. They'd turned me into a running joke. Me, who'd left a solid engineering job to raise Jasper and Talia so Marissa could climb her corporate ladder. I'd freelanced from home, built a design business in the cracks of parenting, all to keep us steady. And this was how she saw me. A lapdog? A maid? I thought back to the last few years, how she'd started pulling away, how her work trips got longer, how she'd roll her eyes when I talked about my projects. I'd chalked it up to stress, told myself she was just tired. But now I saw the truth. She'd been rewriting me in her head, turning me into something small so she could justify whatever she was doing with Grayson. I looked at the photo by the school again, her lips on his, the playground fence blurry in the background. That one hurt the most. Jasper and Talia played there every day, and she didn't care if someone saw, didn't care if it got back to them. What kind of mother does that? What kind of wife? I stood up, pacing the kitchen, trying to make sense of it. I'd built my whole world around her, quit my job when Jasper was born because she begged me to, moved us to this house because it was closer to her office, stayed up late sketching designs so we wouldn't dip into savings. I'd worn the apron, sure, cooked meals, fixed toys, but I wasn't weak. I'd done it for us, for the kids. And she'd taken that and twisted it into something to laugh at with her lover and her smug coworkers. I stopped by the sink, staring at the dishes I hadn't washed yet. Her coffee mug was there, lipstick smudged on the rim. I grabbed it and threw it hard into the trash. The crash felt good, like I was breaking something she couldn't touch anymore. Tom's voice came back to me from the call. "She's not who you think she is," he'd said. "I've seen her at work, charming clients, tearing into people who cross her. Grayson's just the latest game. A game. That's what I was to her now, a piece she'd moved around until she got bored." I sat back down, pulling up the video again. Her laugh, sharp and cruel, filled the room. "You wouldn't even know how to cheat if you tried." I shut it off, my hands shaking. She was wrong. I didn't need to cheat to prove anything. I'd been loyal, steady, the one holding us together while she played her secret games. But loyalty didn't mean I'd let her walk over me. I emailed Tom back. "Keep me posted if you hear more." "I'm not letting this go." He replied, "Will do. Stay strong." Strong. I didn't feel it yet, but I could fake it until it stuck. I looked around the kitchen, the kids' drawings on the fridge, the chair where Marissa used to sit. This was my home, my life, and she didn't get to define it anymore. She'd show me her secret side, cold, selfish, cruel, and I wasn't going to let her rewrite mine. I'd been a husband, a father, a man who'd sacrificed for his fam. She could laugh all she wanted, but I wasn't the joke here. She was, and I'd make sure she knew it. I woke up the next morning with a plan, or at least the start of one. The rage from last night had settled into something quieter, something I could use. Marissa's secret life wasn't just a knife in my back. It was a stack of cards she'd built up, flimsy and fake, and I was going to knock it down. I'd spent too long being the guy who fixed things, broken toys, late dinners, her excuses, and now I was done playing her game. Tom's evidence was my ammunition, and I wasn't going to let it sit there collecting dust. I made coffee, strong enough to jolt me awake, and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. The kids were still with Bree, and I texted her to check in. "They're good," she wrote back. "Jasper's drawing, Talia's bossing me around. You holding up?" I replied, "Getting there. Thanks for keeping them." I couldn't face them yet, not until I had my head straight. I pulled up Tom's files again. The photos and chats spread across the screen like a map of her lies. Hotels, restaurants, that kiss by the school. It was all there, time-stamped, undeniable. Then there was the video, her laughing about me being a babysitter, Grayson's smug grin beside her. I printed everything, page after page sliding out of the old printer in the garage, the hum filling the quiet house. I needed it tangible, something I could hold when I decided what to do next. That's when I thought about Grayson's wife, Alyssa Webb, Tom had said. A teacher, probably clueless about her husband's double life. If Marissa could ruin my family, Grayson was doing the same to hers. I didn't know her, but she deserved the truth as much as I did. I searched online, digging through social media and school directories until I found her. Alyssa Webb, second-grade teacher at Pinewood Elementary. Her profile was simple, a photo of her with a little girl, both smiling, and a post about a class project. She looked kind, steady, nothing like the chaos Marissa and Grayson were spinning. I found her number through a parent directory Tom sent in his next email. He'd been busy, pulling threads I hadn't even thought of. My hands hesitated over the phone, but I dialed anyway. She picked up after 2 rings, her voice soft but cautious. "Hello. Hi, Alyssa. This is Callum Rhodes. You don't know me, but I'm Marissa Rhodes' husband. I think we need to talk about your husband, Grayson." There was a long pause, and I could almost hear her breath catch. "What about him?" she said, her tone shifting, like she'd been waiting for something like this. "I caught my wife with him yesterday. At a cafe. Kissing. It's not the first time." Another silence, then a quiet, "Oh." I told her I had proof, photos, messages, more, and asked if we could meet. She agreed, her voice steady now, like she was steeling herself. "There's a park near my school," she said. "Can you be there at noon?" I said yes and hung up, my pulse racing. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about pulling the mask off both of them. I grabbed the printed files, stuffed them into a folder, and copied everything onto a flash drive. By noon, I was at the park, sitting on a bench under some oaks, the folder beside me. Alyssa showed up right on time, a slim woman with short brown hair and tired eyes. She carried a tote bag, like she'd come straight from class, and sat down without much greeting. "You're Callum?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, thanks for meeting me." She looked at the folder, then at me. "What do you have?" I handed her the flash drive. "Everything I know. Pictures, chats, a video. They've been at it for months. Hotels, dinners, even near my kid's school. I figured you deserved to see it." She took it, her fingers brushing the plastic, and stared at it like it might bite her. "I suspected something," she said finally. "He's been distant, working late, making excuses. But I didn't want to believe it." "I get that," I said. "I didn't either. Until I saw them." She opened the folder, flipping through the photos, her face pale but calm. "This one's from last month," she said, pointing at a hotel shot. "He told me he was at a conference." "Marissa said the same kind of stuff," I replied. "Work projects, late nights. Lies." She nodded, closing the folder. "They think we're too soft to fight back." Her voice had an edge now, and I liked it. It matched the cold clarity I'd been feeling. "We don't have to be," I said. "We've got the truth. They don't get to keep pretending." She looked at me, her eyes sharp. "What's your plan?" I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "I want them to face it, all of it. Not just us knowing, but everyone. Her firm, his job, their little world. They've been laughing at us, thinking we're weak. I say we show them we're not." Alyssa tilted her head, thinking. I could confront him, but he'd deny it. He's good at that. "So we don't give them room to wiggle out," I said. "We hit them where it hurts. Public, undeniable. I've got my sister Bree. She's good at spreading word without it tracing back. And Tom, the guy who sent me this, he's got more from their office." She nodded slowly. "I've got friends too. Parents at school, people who'd talk if they knew." We sat there, plotting in the shade, two strangers tied together by the same betrayal. It wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about stopping the lies, the gaslighting, the way they'd strutted around like we didn't matter. They built this castle of cards, Alyssa said, tucking the flash drive into her bag. Let's watch it fall. I agreed, and we swapped numbers, promising to coordinate. As she walked away, I felt lighter, not healed, but focused. Marissa thought she could mock me and walk away clean. Grayson thought he could play both sides. They were wrong. I drove home, the folder still warm in my hands, and started planning the next move. Her castle was going to crumble, and I'd be the one holding the match. I'd never been one for drama, but after everything, Marissa's kiss with Grayson, her mocking me in those chats, the way she'd turned our life into her playground, I was ready to flip the script. Meeting Alyssa had lit something in me, a quiet fire that wasn't just anger anymore. It was purpose. We'd agreed to hit them where it hurt, and Ridgeview Bistro was the perfect stage. Alyssa had called me the next day, her voice steady but excited. I'm inviting Grayson to a family lunch there on Saturday, she said. He thinks it's just me and our daughter. He won't suspect you. I liked her already. She was smart, direct, and didn't flinch at what we were about to do. I'll make sure Marissa shows up, I told her. She won't be able to resist if she thinks I'm meeting someone. Bree was my ace for that part. I called her after, filling her in on the plan. Tell one of Marissa's work friends I'm having lunch at Ridgeview with a woman, I said. Make it vague. Let her imagination run wild. Bree laughed, a little wickedly. Oh, I've got just the person. Kelly from her office owes me a favor. She'll spill it. I trusted Bree. She'd always had my back, and she knew how to stir the pot without getting caught. By Saturday morning, I was ready. I dropped Jasper and Talia at Bree's again, promising them a movie night later. Be good for Aunt Bree, I said, kissing Talia's forehead. Jasper hugged me tight, like he sensed something was off, but he didn't ask. I drove to Ridgeview, a small place with big windows and a patio. Public enough to make a scene, cozy enough to feel personal. Alyssa was already there, sitting at a table near the window, her hands folded calmly in her lap. She'd brought a stack of papers, copies of Tom's photos and chats, and a laptop. Props, she said with a small smile as I sat down. In case we need to show our work. I nodded, setting my own folder beside hers. Grayson coming? He texted he's 5 minutes out, she said. Marissa? Bree says the bait's taken. Kelly told her I'm here with someone. She'll show. We ordered coffee, keeping it light, chatting about nothing, her daughter's school play, my design projects, until Grayson walked in. He was tall, slick in that navy suit I'd seen at the cafe, his hair gelled back like he thought he was untouchable. He froze when he saw me, his eyes darting between Alyssa and me. What's this? He said, his voice tight, hovering by the table. Before Alyssa could answer, the door swung open again, and there was Marissa, heels clicking, her face a mix of curiosity and fury. She'd taken the bait, all right. She stormed over, her purse swinging, and stopped short when she saw Grayson. What is this? She snapped, glaring at me, then Alyssa. Alyssa leaned back, calm as ever. A truth session, she said, her voice sweet but edged. I looked Marissa in the eye, keeping my tone even. We know everything. The texts, the hotels, the jokes about my parenting. Grayson tried to cut in, his hands up like he could wave it away. This is a misunderstanding. No, Alyssa said, sliding a photo across the table, him and Marissa outside that hotel. It's not. Marissa's face went red, her lips tight. So what now? She said, turning on me. You think you're some kind of hero, Callum? No, I said, standing up so I was level with her. Just the father of your children. And you've made it very clear how little that meant to you. The words landed hard. I saw it in her flinch, the way her eyes flickered. Grayson shifted, looking around like he could escape, but people were starting to stare. A couple at the next table whispered, forks paused mid-bite. Alyssa opened her laptop, pulling up the video from Tom. Marissa's voice filled the air. He's a glorified babysitter, and I watched her face drain of color. Turn that off, she hissed, reaching for it. But Alyssa pulled it back. Why? She said. You were so proud of it. Grayson grabbed Marissa's arm, muttering, let's go, but she yanked away, glaring at me. You're pathetic, she spat. Digging through my life like this. You dug the hole, I said. I just found the shovel. Alyssa stood too, her voice cutting through. You both thought we'd stay quiet. That we'd let you lie and laugh and carry on. Not anymore. She held up the folder. This goes to your firm, Marissa. And Grayson, your boss gets a copy Monday. His jaw dropped. You can't. We can, I said. And we will. Marissa laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You think this scares me? I'll survive this. Maybe, I said. But it won't be easy. Not when everyone knows. The room felt smaller now, eyes on us from every corner. Grayson looked like he wanted to bolt, his slick confidence gone. Marissa grabbed her purse, her hands shaking. You're ruining everything, she said, her voice low. No, Alyssa replied, closing her laptop. You did that. They left, Grayson first, Marissa stomping after him, her heels echoing. I sat back down, my heart pounding but steady. Alyssa exhaled, a small smile tugging at her lips. That felt good, she said. Yeah, I agreed, sipping my coffee. It did. We'd planned it to shake them, to strip away their smug armor, and it worked. They'd walked in thinking they controlled the narrative, now they were scrambling. I thought about Jasper and Talia, how I'd tell them something simple later, something they could hold on to. Marissa had mocked me as a father, but I just fought for them in a way she never would. Alyssa and I finished our coffee, talking next steps, her filing for divorce, me locking Marissa out legally. The bistro buzzed around us, life going on, but for me, it was a turning point. I wasn't just the guy blindsided at a cafe anymore. I was the one who'd stood up, faced them down, and won. Not with fists or yelling, but with the truth. And that was enough for now. After the showdown at Ridgeview, I drove home with a strange calm settling over me, not peace exactly, but a kind of quiet I hadn't felt since I'd seen Marissa kissing Grayson at the cafe. The look on her face when Alyssa played that video, the way Grayson's slick confidence cracked, it stuck with me, replaying in my head like a victory I hadn't expected to feel so good. I'd spent years building a life for us, and in one afternoon, I'd started tearing down the lies she'd piled on top of it. But it wasn't over yet. The fallout came fast, like dominoes I'd nudged into motion. Alyssa texted me that night, filed for divorce this afternoon. Froze our accounts. He's furious. I could imagine Grayson pacing some hotel room, realizing his castle was crumbling too. I replied, good. Let him squirm. She sent back a thumbs up, and I smiled. Our weird little alliance was holding strong. Bree had done her part too. She'd forwarded Tom's screenshots to a few key people at Marissa's firm, anonymous emails, untraceable, just like we'd planned. By Monday, word was spreading. Tom called me that evening, his voice hushed but excited. Her office is a mess, he said. 2 big clients pulled out today. Someone leaked the chats to them. Partners are pissed. I leaned against the kitchen counter, listening as he described Marissa's nameplate being taken off her door. Her desk cleared out. She's blaming everyone but herself, he added. Says it's a setup. Let her spin it, I said. Truth's out now. I hung up, feeling that calm deepened. She'd mocked me as weak, but I'd hit her where it hurt, her career, her precious reputation. I wasn't proud of the destruction, not exactly, it was just what she'd earned. Then, 3 days after Ridgeview, she showed up at the house. I was in the garage, sketching a new design for a client, when I heard her car pull in. The kids were still with Bree. I'd kept them there until I could sort this mess, and I was glad for it when I saw Marissa step out, her eyes red, her hair messy. She didn't look like the polished woman who'd sneered at me in the bistro. She looked broken. Callum, she said, her voice shaky as she walked up. You've ruined my life. I set my pencil down, wiping my hands on my jeans, and faced her. No, I said, keeping my tone cold. You did that all by yourself. She blinked, tears spilling over, and I almost felt sorry for her, almost. I lost my job, she said. Clients won't touch me. Grayson's gone. He won't even answer my calls. Sounds like consequences, I replied, crossing my arms. You laughed at me while you built that mess. Don't cry to me when it falls. She wiped her face, her hands trembling. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It was just. I don't know, a rush. I messed up, okay? Can't we talk? For the kids. The kids. She always knew how to twist that knife. I stepped closer, keeping my voice steady. You don't get to use them now. You kissed him by their school, Marissa. You mocked me in front of your friends while I was home raising them. We'll talk, through lawyers. That's it. Her face crumpled, and she sank onto the garage step, sobbing. I don't have anywhere to go, she said. I can't afford a place yet. Please, Callum, just let me stay until— No, I cut her off. You've got friends. You've got Grayson's guest room, remember? Figure it out. I turned back to my desk, picking up the pencil, signaling the conversation was done. She sat there a minute longer, crying, then got up and left without another word. Her car peeled out, and I stood there, listening to the silence settle back in. I didn't feel good about it, not really, but I didn't feel bad either. She'd made her choices, and I wasn't her safety net anymore. The next day, Alyssa called. "Grayson's living in a motel," she said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "I've got a lawyer pushing for sole custody. He's scrambling. Marissa showed up here last night," I told her, begging to come back. "Lost her job too." Alyssa paused, then said, "They thought they were invincible. Now look at them." "Yeah," I agreed. "We didn't break them, they broke themselves." We talked a bit longer, swapping updates like war buddies. She told me about her daughter, how she was holding up, and I mentioned Jasper and Talia, how I'd bring them home soon. "You're a good dad," she said before we hung up. "Don't let her take that from you." Her words stuck with me. Marissa had tried, calling me a babysitter, a lapdog, but I'd never stopped being their father. That night, I cleaned the house, tossing out anything that screamed Marissa, her fancy wine glasses, the throw pillows she'd picked. I wasn't erasing her for the kids. They'd still need to know their mom, in some way. But for me, it was a fresh start. Bree brought Jasper and Talia back the next morning, and their little feet running through the door felt like life again. "Daddy," Talia yelled, hugging my legs. Jasper grinned, holding up a drawing he'd made. A truck, like mine. "Missed you," I said, scooping them up, and for the first time in days, I meant it without a shadow behind it. Marissa's collapse wasn't my victory, it was her consequence. Alyssa's strength, our alliance, kept me grounded. "We didn't lose," she'd said once. "We shed what was rotting." She was right. The rot was gone now, Marissa's lies, Grayson's arrogance, and I was left standing, stronger than I'd been. The kids climbed onto the couch, chattering about Bree's pancakes, and I sat with them, letting their voices fill the space. This was my home again, not hers, and I'd fight to keep it that way. With Marissa gone and the kids back home, I felt like I could breathe again. Not fully, not yet, but enough to start piecing things together. Jasper and Talia brought the house alive that first morning, their laughter bouncing off the walls as they raced around, oblivious to the storm that had just blown through. I told them something simple the night before. "Mom's going to be away for a while, but we're okay here, just us." Jasper nodded, like he understood more than he let on, and Talia just asked if she could have extra syrup on her pancakes. "Kids are tougher than you think. They roll with what you give them, as long as you're steady." And I was determined to be that for them now. The fallout from Ridgeview was still rippling, but I kept my focus tight. Tom texted me a photo that afternoon, Marissa's nameplate gone from her office door, a blank space where it used to hang. "She's officially out," he wrote. "Firm's cutting ties." I didn't reply right away, just stared at the picture, letting it sink in. She'd built her whole identity around the job, and now it was dust. Part of me wondered where she'd gone after she left the garage crying, but I pushed it down. That wasn't my problem anymore. Alyssa called later, her voice brighter than before. "Filed for sole custody today," she said. "Grayson's still at that motel, tried to call me, but I didn't pick up." "Good," I said. "Let him stew." She laughed, a small, real sound. "You hear about Marissa's firm?" "Yeah. Tom sent me a picture. She's done there." "They deserve each other," she said, and I could hear the shrug in her tone. "Or nobody, I guess. We'd become this odd team, checking in, keeping each other sane. It wasn't friendship exactly, more like survivors sharing a raft. I needed that, more than I'd admit. The next day, I got to work. The garage had always been my space, half design studio, half storage, and I decided it was time to make it official. I'd been freelancing for years, picking up small projects between diaper changes and school runs, but now I had room to grow. I cleared out Marissa's old boxes, stuff she'd left behind, like fancy shoes and files she'd never bothered to organize, and set up a real desk. I dusted off my drafting tools, plugged in a lamp, and pinned Jasper's truck drawing to the wall. It felt good, like I was claiming something back. I called a few old clients that afternoon, ones I'd worked with before the kids came along. "Hey, it's Callum Rhodes," I said to one, a guy who owned a construction firm. "Starting my own design studio. You still need blueprints?" He remembered me, said my work was solid back in the day, and gave me a small job on the spot. By the end of the week, I had 3 projects lined up. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The house needed a reset too. Marissa's touch was everywhere, the sleek couch she'd insisted on, the curtains she'd picked because they matched her vibe. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted her out of my space. I hauled the couch to the curb, posted it online for free, and it was gone in an hour. Bree came over with the kids' help, and we picked out new stuff, simple, sturdy, kid-friendly. Jasper chose a blue chair he could sprawl in, and Talia wanted a rug with stars on it. "It's like the sky, Daddy," she said, jumping on it when we rolled it out. Bree brought paint too, soft gray for the living room, and we spent a Saturday covering the old beige Marissa loved. The kids got more on themselves than the walls, but I didn't care. It was ours now, not hers. That first holiday without her crept up fast, Thanksgiving, just a few weeks after Ridgeview. I'd always cooked the turkey, but Marissa had done the sides, making a big show of it for her Instagram. This time, it was just me, Bree, and the kids. I kept it simple: turkey, mashed potatoes, some rolls from the store. Bree brought pie, and we ate on the new rug, picnic style, while Jasper told us about a dinosaur book he'd read. Talia fell asleep in my lap halfway through, her little hand clutching a roll. "You're doing good, Cal," Bree said later, washing dishes while I dried. "They're happy." "Trying to be," I said, glancing at the kids sprawled on the couch, a cartoon flickering on the TV. "It's enough for now." She nodded, handing me a plate. "She doesn't get to define this anymore." Bree was right. The lies were gone, Marissa's affair, her smugness, the way she'd made me feel small. I'd shed it, piece by piece, and what was left was real. The kids started smiling more, their routines settling in. Jasper asked about Mom once, his voice quiet. "Is she coming back?" I knelt down, keeping it honest. "Not right now, buddy. But we've got each other." "Yeah?" He hugged me, and that was that. Alyssa texted me a week later, a picture of her daughter's school project, a little house made of popsicle sticks. "We're okay too," she wrote. "New start." I sent back a photo of my garage setup, Jasper's drawing in the frame. Same here. The house felt whole again, not because Marissa was gone, but because I'd rebuilt it. I wasn't the guy she'd laughed at anymore, the house hubby in her chats. I was Callum Rhodes, dad, designer, someone who'd taken the wreckage and made something solid. The kids slept in their beds that night, the star rug glowing under the hall light. I stood in the doorway, watching them breathe, and felt it, a blueprint for something better, drawn from scratch. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and that was enough. The weeks after Thanksgiving rolled by steady and quiet, like the house had finally found its rhythm again. Jasper and Talia were back to their usual chaos, spilling juice, leaving toys everywhere, and I was grateful for it. The normal mess felt like a shield against the storm Marissa had left behind. I'd started thinking she was gone for good, that the tears in the garage and the fallout at her firm had finally sunk in. But I should have known better. She wasn't the type to let go easy, not when she was cornered. It started with an email one morning, while I was pouring coffee and the kids were arguing over who got the last waffle. Her name popped up on my phone, Marissa Rhodes, and my stomach tightened. I didn't want to open it, but I did. "Callum, I miss you. I miss the kids. I've had time to think, and I know I messed up. Can we talk? Please." No apology, just that vague messed up, like it was a spilled glass of wine, not a wrecked marriage. I deleted it, handed Talia the waffle to stop the fight, and went back to my day. But she didn't stop. Texts came next, short ones at first. "How's Jasper? Talia still likes that star rug?" Then longer ones, late at night. "I'm not with Grayson anymore. It's over. I want my family back." I didn't reply. She didn't deserve my words, not after everything, kissing him by the school, laughing about me in those chats, acting like I was nothing at Ridgeview. I'd given her a chance to explain that night in the garage, and she'd just cried for herself, not us. But then she upped the game. A package showed up on the porch a few days later, a toy truck for Jasper, a stuffed bunny for Talia, wrapped in bright paper with a card that said, "From Mommy, with love." The kids found it before I could hide it, their eyes lighting up. "Mommy sent this?" Jasper asked, holding the truck like it was gold. Talia hugged the bunny tight, grinning. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. She did. I couldn't take it away from them. They still loved her, even if I didn't. But I saw the move for what it was, a wedge, a way to sneak back in. That night, I wrote her a note, short, on a sticky pad I stuck to the empty box. "We're doing fine. Please don't show up unannounced." I mailed it back with the wrapping paper, no return address. I thought that'd be the end of it, but Marissa never knew when to quit. She showed up the next Saturday, pulling into the driveway while I was raking leaves with the kids. Jasper saw her first, dropping his little rake. "Mommy," he yelled, running over. Talia followed, Bunny still in her arms. I stood there, rake in hand, watching her climb out of the car, jeans, a sweater, no makeup. She looked smaller, less like the woman who'd sneered at me in the bistro. She hugged the kids, her eyes flicking to me over their heads. "Hey, Callum," she said, soft, like we were old friends. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. The kids were tugging at her, chattering about school, but I didn't move closer. "I wanted to see them," she said. "And you?" "I've been thinking." "No." I cut her off, stepping forward so the kids wouldn't hear the edge in my tone. "You don't get to just walk back in." She straightened, her face tightening. "They're my kids too. I have rights." "You gave up rights when you chose Grayson," I said. "When you laughed at me while I raised them. We're handling this through lawyers, like I told you." Jasper looked up, confused. "Daddy." I knelt down, ruffling his hair. "Go inside with Talia, okay? Get some juice. I'll be there in a sec." He nodded, taking Talia's hand, and they ran off, the bunny bouncing against her leg. Marissa watched them go, then turned back to me. "I'm not that person anymore," she said. "I lost everything. My job, my friends, him. I'm scared, Callum. I need you." I almost laughed, but it stuck in my throat. "You're scared because it's gone, not because you're sorry. You didn't care when you had it all. Me, the kids, this life. You mocked it." "I was wrong," she said, her voice breaking. "I see that now." "Too late," I replied, picking up the rake. "You don't get to backtrack because your castle fell. I'm not your fallback." She stood there, hands in her pockets, tears welling up. "I'll fight for them," she said. "Legally, if I have to." "Go ahead," I said. "But you're not stepping foot in this house. Not after what you did." I turned and walked inside, locking the door behind me. The kids were in the kitchen, juice cups in hand, and I forced a smile. "Mommy's gotta go for now," I said. "But we're good, right?" Talia nodded, sipping her drink. Jasper just watched me, quiet. I knew he'd ask more someday, and I'd tell him what I could. Marissa's car started up outside, then faded away. I leaned against the counter, breathing slow. She wasn't sorry, she was desperate. Her job was gone, Grayson had ditched her, and now she wanted the family she'd thrown away. But I'd seen her real side, selfish, cruel, and I wasn't letting it back in. Some betrayals you survive, like a storm that rips through and leaves you standing. Others define you, show you who you are when the pieces settle. This one had defined me, not as her husband anymore, but as a man who knew his worth. I took the kids to the park later, letting them run wild while I sat on a bench, watching. Alyssa texted me, a picture of her daughter's latest craft, a paper bird. "Holding steady?" she asked. "Yeah," I sent back. She tried to come back. Sent her packing. "Good for you," she replied. "We're worth more than their regrets." She was right. I wasn't Marissa's safety net, her second chance. I was me, Callum, Dad, the guy rebuilding from the ground up. And I'd keep her out. No apologies, no return. 6 months after I'd caught Marissa at Café del Sol, I stood outside Talia's preschool, holding her little hand as she bounced beside me, her graduation cap slipping off her curls. Jasper was on my other side, kicking a pebble down the sidewalk, his backpack slung over one shoulder. The sun was warm, the air smelled like cut grass, and for the first time in a long while, I felt solid, like the ground under me wasn't shifting anymore. Talia's graduation was small, just a handful of parents and kids in a classroom decked out with paper flowers and a banner that said "Big Kids Now." She'd marched across the room in her tiny cap, grinning when she saw me clap, and I'd felt my chest swell. Jasper had leaned over and whispered, "She's so proud," and I'd ruffled his hair, nodding. These moments, their moments, were what I'd been fighting for, even when I didn't know it. After the ceremony, we spilled outside, the kids running across the lawn, chasing each other with plastic diplomas. I was passing out snacks, crackers, and juice boxes I'd packed when Alyssa showed up. Her daughter, Mia, was in Talia's class, and she'd promised to swing by. She walked over, a bag of cookies in hand, her short hair catching the light. "Hey, Callum," she said, smiling. "Survived the chaos?" "Barely," I laughed, handing her a juice box. "You?" "Same," she said, setting the cookies down. "Mia's already planning her big kid party." We stood there, watching the kids play, and it hit me how far we'd come. 6 months ago, I was the guy frozen outside a cafe, watching my wife kiss another man. Now I was here, steady, with Jasper and Talia laughing in the grass. Alyssa had been part of that. She'd walked the same road, shedding Grayson's lies while I shed Marissa's. I didn't think I'd ever feel peace again, I said, keeping my voice low so the kids wouldn't hear. She nodded, her eyes on Mia as she spun with Talia. You earned it. We both did. She was right. It hadn't been easy, Marissa's begging, the legal mess, the nights I'd lain awake wondering if I'd done right by the kids. But I'd kept going, brick by brick, rebuilding something stronger. The garage studio was humming now, 5 clients, steady work, enough to keep us comfortable. I'd even hired a part-time sitter so I could take on more, and the kids loved her, a college kid named Sarah who played dinosaurs with Jasper and braided Talia's hair. The house was ours too, no trace of Marissa left. We'd painted every room, swapped her sleek furniture for stuff that fit us, cozy, lived in, real. Jasper's blue chair was his throne, and Talia's star rug was her dance floor. Bree still came by, bringing pie, or just herself, and we'd sit on the porch after the kids were asleep, talking about nothing and everything. Marissa had faded out. After that last visit, she tried a few more texts, but they stopped when my lawyer sent her papers, divorce filed, custody split but favoring me. She'd signed, no fight left, and I heard through Tom she'd moved somewhere upstate, working some low-key job. I didn't care where, as long as she stayed gone. Grayson was a ghost too. Alyssa had one sole custody, and he'd slunk off. No match for her quiet steel. You ever think about them? Alyssa asked, breaking my thoughts. I shrugged. Sometimes. Not like I used to. You. Same, she said. It's more like a memory now, something that happened, not something I carry. I like that. It wasn't about revenge anymore, or even anger. It was just a chapter closed, one I'd walked away from stronger. The kids ran over, sweaty and giggling, grabbing cookies from Alyssa's bag. Daddy, can Mia come over? Talia asked, crumbs on her chin. Sure, I said, glancing at Alyssa. If it's okay with her mom. Works for me, Alyssa said, smiling. New beginnings, right? We packed up, herding the kids to the truck, and drove home together. Mia chattering with Jasper in the back, Talia singing some preschool song. At the house, they bolted inside, dumping their graduation stuff on the floor, and I let them. Alyssa helped me set out snacks in the kitchen, and we sat there, watching them play through the window. You're good at this, she said, nodding at the kids. The dad thing. Learned on the job, I said. You're not bad yourself. She laughed, and it felt easy, 2 people who'd been through hell, finding a little light on the other side. We weren't anything more than that. Not yet. Maybe never. But it was enough to know someone got it, someone who'd stood up to the same kind of betrayal and come out whole. Later, after Alyssa and Mia left, I took the kids outside to the backyard. We'd built a small fort there, with scraps from a client, painted bright by Jasper and Talia, and they climbed in, pretending it was a spaceship. I sat on the grass, leaning back, the sky stretching wide above us. 6 months ago, I'd been blindsided, broken, scribbling "Don't come home" on a scrap of paper. Now I was here, the man who'd rebuilt it all, not out of spite, but respect. For myself, for Jasper and Talia, for the life I'd chosen to design. They called me over, waving from the fort, and I joined them, ducking inside. Captain Daddy, Talia yelled, handing me a stick like it was a sword. Jasper grinned, plotting our next mission. I played along, their voices filling the space, and I knew it. I was stronger than before. Not because I'd won some war, but because I'd built something better, day by day, piece by piece, on my own terms.